Hello and welcome back. We're here at Healthcare Unblocked 2019. What a day it's been so far. A lot of great opinions going on. A lot of experts within blockchain and of course within the medical side of things as well. I'm now joined by somebody who's slightly different from a medical background, but my gosh, he's got a background, all right. He's very knowledgeable in all things going on in cybersecurity. I'd now like to introduce Ankur Banerjee, who is, you've got a great title here, Ankur, which is Lead Blockchain and Digital Identity Solution Architect for Accenture UK. Thanks so much for joining me.
Mouthful, isn't it?
It really is. I struggled to say that there. I had my heart beating and, I was like, am I going to get this right? But I did. I somehow managed to. So Ankur, great having you on. You did a talk earlier on cybersecurity within blockchain. Give us an overview of that for a snippet for the people who aren't here and what you're doing here today, of course.
Sure. What I spoke about within cybersecurity and healthcare is the fact that there will be a torrent of data which is more personal to people and that is digital that will come along in the healthcare sector. And along with that, you have the associated risk of data breaches and that data being lost. So my talk was around how things like blockchain and decentralized identity can really help with minimizing the amount of data that's captured about people in the first place and yet create engaging and useful experiences for patients and users. I know that sounds like a bit of like a mouthful, but it's really about creating what is more useful without patients having to lose their data.
Okay, so why is it though that maybe you did a great talk earlier with cybersecurity and how it's being related to blockchain or vice versa, how blockchain is utilizing cybersecurity. Why is it though that sometimes the two don't connect up and see eye to eye necessarily in terms of being on the main agendas when they're at these talks?
A large part of the problem is that cybersecurity is hard, and a lot of this is a very complicated topic in how it's dealt with. I think the second reason why blockchain and cybersecurity don't go eye to eye is the fact that there's a perception that blockchains are about open sharing of data across multiple organizations. And that gets people anxious about the fact that, wow, okay, if all of this data is shared, then is it more likely to get lost or stolen from a different place? But an interesting development within the blockchain space has been newer blockchain frameworks and platforms that allow for the sharing of data to happen without necessarily revealing the actual information behind it. So for instance, if you had to prove that you were over the age of 18 at a supermarket. Right now, you might be doing that by showing your passport. But what if you could prove that in a digitally signed fashion based off of your passport without showing anybody an actual copy of it? So I think that's been part of it, that not enough people are aware that blockchain-based systems can also enable sharing using methods where the actual information is not shared.
And also as well, I think you gave some great examples earlier as well, not just about the passport, but also about, examples where university degrees are the old school method of scanning it and potentially forwarding it on or basically fraud in a sense. Would you say that's where blockchain is really coming to its own and just basically laminating and making sure this stuff doesn't occur? Or is it not as black as white as that?
It's making it easy in the sense that it's as easy as having a Dropbox folder that you share across maybe 5 or 10 different organizations. And at any point of time what has been updated, who has it been updated by. And anytime an update is done, you create like a new copy of a document. So everybody has the history of like what happened there. So yes, that's one sort of big use case where you know where something has been tampered with or not. This university degree that is being presented, that you have a copy of, has it been tampered in the time since 10 years ago when it was issued? It's also big in travel. You might have to show your passport or your visa documents at a border to get into a country. But equally, you might have to prove some of those facts when you go to a hotel check-in. And at that point, you don't really need to show your passport or your visa. What the hotel needs to know is, do you have a valid passport? Do you have a valid visa? Like, can this person, is this person allowed to stay here for 2 weeks that they claim to be? And that's where like blockchain and the power for minimizing the amount of data held, and therefore the amount of like what we call the attack surface of how much data is there to leak out can help improve the cybersecurity posture of many organizations.
I think it's great what you're doing, and the way you're looking at it and explaining it in layman's terms is really helpful for all of us. Now, just to move the subject on slightly to something that is maybe something that we spoke about before we came on camera, which is, do you think, what areas of blockchain do you think needs to change, and culturally rather than necessarily about the technology itself? Because sometimes there's been some certain aspects, not within cybersecurity, well, cybersecurity might be one of them, but cloud, other areas of technology, data storage, etc., who maybe looked at it as like this new little cousin who just came in out of the woodwork, really. And some people gave it a sort of a bad rep, others embraced it as well. And I think nowadays people are starting to embrace it far more. Banking, IT, technology, data, cloud, whatever, they're all embracing it now. But what areas do you still think needs improvement on a culture front?
Interoperability, because I think a large problem with the blockchain space so far is the fact that there's an arms race for every single group of organizations to create their own network or their own token or their own system, basically to own it. The problem with that is then everyone's just incentivized to create their own network without really becoming part of a big ecosystem. So that interoperability problem needs to be solved. The second thing is actually the technology is the easy part of this, keeping it secure, keeping it hosted somewhere, writing up all of these things in smart contracts. That's actually fairly easy. We know how to go about it as an industry. What's hard is getting all of the business agreements in place of like, do you trust this information that's come from a different organization if I haven't checked it myself?
And that's the cybersecurity standpoint.
Yes, exactly. And like, it's that whole of like, that whole mentality of like not checked at my place, that's causing a lot of problems culturally. And I think that those will get fixed over time when we, it's not just these smart contracts that are decided, but what you call the trust frameworks are decided. What are the minimum standards that everyone signs up to adhering to within a blockchain network? What are the minimum cybersecurity things that they will be doing to keep data secure? What are the minimum things that they'll do to verify stuff? That's what I think we need to solve.
Great. I mean, real cool guy you are. I think you've really explained it in a really cool fashion as well, in terms of the fact that this is the areas that need improvement. This is cybersecurity spin on it, really, and this is the benefits that blockchain gets out of it. So, absolute pleasure having you on. Unfortunately, we're going to have to wrap things up because it will start to move on to. We could talk all day about this, I'm sure. But it's an absolute pleasure, and I wish you all the best in the future. And I hope you enjoyed today.
Absolutely, and hope the others enjoy and learn something else as well.
Great stuff. Thank you very much.